On the Zero Wasted Days podcast, I want to inspire you to push the boundaries of what's expected in your life and your business, to challenge norms and your growth edges, and to go after the most audacious dreams, because I've seen for myself that anything is truly possible when you have a vision and are ready to go after it. Are you ready to jump in? Let's go. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Zero Wasted Days. I am solo in the studio today. It is coming into the end of February. I think there's just a real sentiment in my community and with a lot of the women that I'm working with of kind of like that winter, like hunker down, but also some of my tulips are coming up and some of the spring air, we get the odd day of sun and warmth that gives us that kind of anticipation of what is to come. So we're in that messy middle, if you're in North America, the slush and the snow potentially, and those blooms coming up. And I think that there's so many comparisons and parallels that we can draw with the seasons that are happening outside to what is also happening inside our businesses. And I think a lot of people in my world, and often as I'm reflecting on what I'm going to talk about every single week, I think about the conversations that I'm having in my DMs, I'm having with people in my community, I'm having with existing clients in my mastermind, and that helps me bring topics to you that hopefully are relevant and are resonant. And one of the things that I've been talking about a lot with people at the moment is just around this concept of turning the dial up and shining more of our authentic, true selves in our businesses and not getting caught in that comparisonitis that so many people do. And it can just be so dangerous when we go down the path of doom scrolling, because it has such an impact on so many aspects of our strategy, so many aspects of our mindset and our energetics. So it really impacts how we show up for our businesses every day. And so I really want to talk today about rediscovering this authenticity and embracing our true authentic selves, and this being the pathway to our growth and our expansion in our businesses. And so we're going to talk about authenticity over comparison. We're going to talk about the value of real thought leadership. I have talked about thought leadership here, but it is so important as we turn up this dial on who we are and what we're here to do and share with the world. And also the importance of healing to overcome so many of our fears and conditioning and insecurities that we have. And so when I think back to the first couple of years of us here in France when we arrived, I wasn't essentially building a business. I had closed my business in Melbourne, and it was before I'd started actually coaching here. And I just shared authentically. I just showed up on Instagram. I had a community of people that were still following me from our trip and who were interested in the journey that we were taking. And so I just showed up and I just shared our journey. I didn't have any outcomes or objectives with what I was sharing. And I didn't look at like metrics, or I didn't have any programs I was selling initially. And I have to think about how rich the conversations and the connections and just how clean they were. And the opportunities that also came about during this time. I had people going, are you still working? Or are you doing this? Are you doing that? And the opportunities that came about at this time were numerous because I wasn't trying hard. There wasn't any forcing anything. I was just simply sharing and being myself. And I see this every single day and within women in my community, but also I see myself slip into this. We add in a business and a brand. We start to think more about how are we going to build this thing, and we start to layer in lots of complicated systems and complicated thoughts. And we start to, like I said, we start to compare ourselves to others. We start to look at what other people are doing, and we start to over-engineer what we're doing. And slowly, I think what happens is that we start to water down our messages and we start to just blend in with everyone around us. And I think that feels safe for people. I think that feels really safe to just stay in this place of, oh, she's doing it, or this is how it seems to be done. I'm just going to stay in this arena, and certainly some opportunities will come my way. And I have to say, this is the hardest part of entrepreneurship, is staying on course, in our lane, in our own truths, and not letting our thoughts take us off track, or not letting that shiny object syndrome take us off track, or not letting what somebody else is doing over here with their strategy or with their launch or with this funnel or whatever it might be take us off track. because that is really what it comes down to. It's not actually about what others are doing. It's what you're making that mean in comparison to yourself. All of your output, your content, your systems, your funnels, your everything is influenced by those thoughts about what others are doing, which can so easily be taken off course. The dangers of continuing to stay in this space of comparison are numerous. I could go on and on about them. Energetically, we are not shining the way that we should be or we can be. And this really keeps us in that frequency of probably of lack and in that frequency of neediness. And that's not a magnetic frequency. That's not a frequency of the desires that we have. It keeps us probably from attracting the people and the opportunities to us. Sure, the odd opportunity lands on our plate because we are doing the thing. But I think if we are energetically shining and we're not in this place of comparison, then energetically we are at this frequency where we are truly attracting the things that we want. And when we are not, we are keeping people from being attracted to us, and we're keeping opportunities from being attracted to us and from shining bright and being really unique. That's all the energetic stuff and the mindset stuff. Strategically, our content, our visibility, our programs, our products, our services become bland. They start to get a little bit watered down, and we don't really stand for much. And our thought leadership is pretty much non-existent. So how do we stay in our lane and overcome this? How do we stop doing this to ourselves and keep leaning into our growth and igniting, not just leaning into, but really igniting our growth? That's what I want you to take from this episode today. So how do we do this? We come back to our authentic selves, our true authentic voice, our uniqueness that makes us different to anyone else out there. You as a coach, you as a service provider, you as a product owner, you as a shop owner. There are things that you bring to the table that are completely unique. Your story is totally unique. What you infuse on a daily basis is totally unique to anybody else. And we stop filtering that out. So creating what I say is real thought leadership is really powerful in our businesses. And for all the reasons that I stated before about being bland and the blandness of comparing and copying others and copying other people's strategies, thought leadership makes us stand out. Very practically, we know that the online world is so noisy. And here in the world of content and social media, every channel is noisy. And if we are just blending in, our message is going to get lost. And if you are a dimmed down version of who you want to be, and you're not shining in your truth super authentically because you're afraid of what other people think, or maybe you're letting that perfectionism keep you in the shade, and maybe you're just doubting yourself at every turn, and you don't know how to actually create real thought leadership, then this is going to be really hard to really grow your business. You could probably simmer along, but to really grow and scale your business and get to a point where you are happy with the revenue and happy with the time freedom, happy with everything that's going on, is going to be really difficult if you're not putting that stake in the ground. Because owning your truth and what you say gives you power. It gives you power to make an impact and to make connections. And those aren't just connections with people, but deep connections with people. And what those deep connections do is create opportunities for you. And all the byproducts of that filter down to so many facets, including increasing your revenue, because sales come directly from connections and conversations. In my sales programs, and when I'm talking about sales to my clients, the first place we go to is what kind of conversations and connections are you making? Usually connections first and then conversations. What connections are you making? And if you're not making connections and having conversations with people on a daily or at least a weekly basis, it's not something that you're measuring yourself against, that it's unlikely that you are raising your thought leadership, that it's unlikely that you are pushing your sales, that it's unlikely that your business is growing at the rate that you want it to be, because you're not putting your thought leadership out there, you're not owning your power, you're not making a real impact and making those connections and having those conversations. We can keep boiling it down to smaller and smaller little components, and then those connections equal sales. But it is so important as a first port of call to start with that thought leadership, because it trickles into everything. There are all of the rational kind of masculine energy reasons why you should be raising your thought leadership and really thinking about this and getting back to these. They are basics. You're going to stand out. You're going to be able to lead and influence others more. You're going to be more of like a go-to authority. You're going to earn profits from being recognized as that authority. And you can change the way people think. All the beautiful kind of more feminine reasons. You will be speaking your truth. You will be sharing your gifts. You will feel more fulfilled. You will be more in your full authenticity. And you'll be embodying how you want to be. And you will be empowering others. So just another little reminder for you that the Phoenix Rising Mastermind is open for enrollment right now. If you crave being in connection and collaboration with other women who are going to help hold you accountable, who are going to lift you up, who are going to help you by being able to be there to bounce ideas off of, also being coached by an experienced coach who has 20 years of experience, that's me. Inside the Phoenix Rising Mastermind, you get a combination of both. So there are one-on-one calls, there are also group calls. We tackle everything from strategies right through to mindset, energetics, because we know that entrepreneurship is not easy. And there are some days when you wake up and you just want to throw the towel in. Well, we're here to support you on those days. We're also here to show you the way and also help show you that anything is truly possible. The Life First method is all about helping you thrive along the way while you grow your business and not have to wait for like some day when you feel like you're going to earn it and merit it and be at some point when you can actually start living your life. So if you are interested in Phoenix Rising, jump on the website, DM me, email me, and let's book a call to discuss whether or not Phoenix Rising is a fit for you and whether or not it's the next step on your journey. So the $1 million question is, how do we forge this unique thought leadership? And in this little episode, we're not going to be going to all of the hows, but I'm going to give you some of the tips and some of the key places where you can start. I do have a masterclass on this, and it's buried in my back end and it's not on my website, but I'm going to get it on my website. So watch for it. It's called Attraction. And in this masterclass, we go over some of these points. But number one, and I think I talk about this almost in every episode, nearly in every episode. But in order for us to really forge a powerful thought leadership, we need to come back to our why, our values, our mission. That might be a quick little review of what those are, but this is where it starts. This is where your thought leadership starts. Number two is knowing intimately, deeply who we're talking to. That woman, that man, that audience. And it's not just a group of people, but intimately knowing what it is that she wants, how is she feeling, and what are her challenges, and how is your solutions going to help her overcome them. The intimacy to which you need to know this audience is so that every single piece of content, and I'll talk about content in a second, is resonating with her. And that's our ultimate goal, is that every piece of content is. But when you are thinking of a reel or writing a caption or coming up with a podcast episode, you want that to land. You want them to lean in. I want you to be leaning into this conversation like I am, because I get so excited about it. And it's not even a conversation, it's one way. But I want you to be leaning into this, listening, because I want this to be resonant. But I do know my audience really well, and I'm always working on this. I'm always coming back to what are her challenges, and I write down conversations that I've had in my community. I get off a client call and I'm like, what are her challenges today? That's what I then go and use in my content. That's what I then go and use as examples here to talk about. Because these are the things, this is like the barometer in my audience. This is my barometer in my community of what are their challenges this week? It may be different the week before, it may be different last year, but this is what is resonant right now. And number 3 is making sure that what you are talking about, what you are sharing with the world, is aligned with actual goals that you're making and with a vision. So this is why it is so important to have a plan, to have a business plan, or be doing your plan for the year, so that you're coming from this place of grounded values, vision, mission, intimately knowing who you're talking to, and then you actually have somewhere where you're working towards. And that can be, sometimes that's a vision in your mind. Sometimes people do vision boards and you have beautiful pictures on your desktop or on your phone. But I also really encourage you to make sure that those are specific goals, that are specific targets. And there's so many people that are not setting specific financial targets because they effectively fear that they're going to miss them. And so they just don't set them at all. But it's so important at a basic level to make sure that where we are coming from is aiming towards something. So yes, the vision, but also those goals. And the annual almanac actually helps you do this really simply. And that's a tool that I have that is the best business planning template that I've seen in the market. And it's designed just for you, just for women. Now, number 4 is taking all of that I've just talked about, where you're coming from, that grounded mission, that why, those values, who it is that you're talking to. Of course, we have to have programs and products and things in the middle. But the next most important thing is using connected content. And so that connected content, it needs to be thought-provoking. It can't be bland. It can't be watered down. It can't be filtered. It needs to make people either agree with it and go, oh my gosh, that is so the truth, or adamantly disagree with it. And that's a good thing as well. It needs to be authentically you. You can't be just towing someone else's line. The more you are infused into that connected content, the more connected it's going to be. And it also needs to make an emotional connection with people. That is connected content. It's not just content for the sake of just, I need to post something today because I haven't created anything. You want to emit an emotional connection with people. So that is everything about thought leadership. And this is why I just think it's so important. And this is infused in so many of my different programs, because every week I talk to clients about this and we come back to it. I come back to this all the time. Where am I at with my message? It's messaging, thought leadership. The messaging gets into a little bit more of the detail about how I'm actually then going to say this. But as a first port of call, we need to make sure that we have strong thought leadership in our businesses in order to be able to shine really authentically and to come back to our truest selves. Another really important aspect to helping you really ignite your growth and shine more authentically, moving on from thought leadership, which kind of is a strategy, is up here, right? We're going to dig in under the layers a little bit here. But this next really important part to you being able to actually turn up the dial and shine more authentically is understanding that so much of what is actually holding you back are not those strategies, but is actually yourself. You are the strongest force working against your dreams and your vision and your desires, your fears and your insecurities. And I say you, but this is everybody running businesses. And these things keep us from fully expressing ourselves. And I've talked at length about this in all sorts of different episodes, even just, I think it was last week, episode, I think it's 42, the fear of failure and how to overcome this. I really encourage you, if you want to dial into some of your fears and really think about this in more concrete terms, go to that last episode because it really helps you unpack how this can be standing in your way. But this healing work and personal work is sometimes more than 50% of the equation. Because like I said, all of these amazing strategies in the world are not going to help us get past our fears and our insecurities and our conditioning and our traumas that can be keeping us small. My program Energy Code dives into this as well in a much deeper level. The behavioral patterns, like the things that we do on a daily basis, the imposter syndrome that we feel, the perfectionism, the overworking and the hustling, the kind of shutdown mode that some people go in. There's so many different behaviors that we exhibit. People pleasing. The list is endless. But all of these behaviors, all of these ways that we behave are often happening for different reasons, for different traumatic reasons, different things in our childhood. But these are keeping us blocked And learning how to overcome them can really unlock new pathways and help us reprogram those subconscious ways, because a lot of that is actually happening at a subconscious level. And so you need to go become aware of it. You need to start unpacking it. But this is daily work. We talk about this almost daily inside my voice channel with the Phoenix Rising members. And whilst we're chatting about strategies for launches, and we're talking about client work and proposals and brainstorming content ideas, we come back to this time and time again. We come back to mindset. We come back to energetics that are keeping so many held back. But this is the work that they want to be doing. This is the work I want to be doing, because I've seen how impactful it is. And bit by bit, we unpack, we unfurl, take away those layers of the onion. And we talk about, and we become more aware, and we deal with, and we unblock. And then slowly we start to clean up those pathways. I have seen such amazing results with people who start to operate in a different energetic hemisphere when they stop living in this survival mode and stop living in this struggle land. And the blocks can be really severe like that, but can also be quite subtle. And some women come to me and they're like, I just feel really just in meh, or I just feel in no man's land or no woman's land, and just feeling unclear. And we talk about some of these things, and it's just sometimes some really subtle little things that are perpetuating in our businesses and in our lives and in our behaviors that can keep us stuck. And so we need to work on overcoming them and finding practices and solutions to be able to take steps forward. So we are personally unblocking these patterns, that we are improving ourselves, and we're keeping and gaining momentum. So some people, it's a matter of working on these things and staying at a certain pace, but sometimes it's about actually gaining momentum. Suzanne, I want to reach that next level. I want to really expand in my business. And in order to be able to do that, we have to unpack everything that's happening at a personal level. I haven't seen a scenario where this hasn't been the case. And so if you want to turn up the volume in your business and stop getting in your own way, I would suggest some simple strategies to start doing this. One, get super clear on what I mentioned earlier, those foundational elements, that why, that value, the mission, the who you're talking to, getting clear on your actual goals and being specific about them. Asking for what you want as a first port of call. So many people just don't ask for what they want. I write it down on a daily basis. Once you've established or reestablished that, start creating that connected content. The thought leadership piece is so important, coming back to yourself. That's the thought-provoking, authentic, emotionally connected piece that is going to move people towards you. And then from a healing aspect, get quiet with yourself and create space for inner reflection and healing every single day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The gratitudes, your desires. These are not just willy-nilly things and airy-fairy. These are so important. They are so important because they affect how you feel about yourself. And how you feel about yourself then affects how you show up in your business and how you're vibrating and what frequency you're at and how you're attracting things into your world, and whether you're attracting things from a place of lack, which is often more problems and more debt and more clients canceling and more no's, or the opposite, which is more abundance and more yeses and more opportunities, because you're really focused on finding that space, and it comes from space, not actual space, but space in your mind. We need to write these things down so that these new neural pathways become the norm, and they feel safe. They feel safe in our nervous system. Remember, it is your beautiful, unique qualities that are going to be what people want to interact with and engage with and be closer to. In order to invite people in, you need to share this with them, your quirks, your opinions that go against the norm sometimes. Your business growth and truly redefining how you do business and not following norms and following what other people are doing is down to you flexing this muscle and not following how others are doing and saying it. This is your unique journey, and the clearer you are about what you're here to do, the more this will attract the people you want into your world. Ultimately, I want you to build a business that feels easy to show up for, because this is a much more sustainable model that ensures that you love what you're doing and you are 100% aligned with who you are, and it feels easy. It feels easeful. No business is easy. It's never easy. Most of my clients want a business that runs with, there's so much around flow, that people want to be in flow because they just want something that just feels easeful. And when you are simply being you and shining your own light, I can guarantee you it will shine and you will reap the rewards in the form of financial abundance and attracting all that you want into your life and your business. But that shield needs to come down. And so I want to give you also a couple of practical places where you can go and resources that you can use in my world that are going to help you do this. I've mentioned a couple of programs already, but if you are keen to explore any of these themes, there are quite a few different places and resources that you can do this. So if you want help reigniting some of the brand building foundations I talked about, whether you're just starting out or whether you've been in business for a long time, this is therapeutic. I can't tell you. These are all outlined in the annual almanac, which is the best, like I said, the best business planning template around. Of course, I'm a bit biased, but I think it is the best. And will also help you make sure you have those goals in place. Remember, I talked about the goals, those specific financial goals that make it clear what you're working towards. And so the almanac has both these beautiful foundational brand building foundations, but also all of the planning elements, quarterly, monthly, annual worksheets to go through so that you can piece out your year, your next quarter, your next month. And this is where your thought leadership comes from. And it's so essential to have in place. So as a first protocol, you can grab the annual almanac inside the show notes, wherever you're watching this. It is $39 and it is the best money that you will ever spend on planning your business for this year, for this month. It's never too late. You don't have to do it at the beginning of the year. You can do it anytime and you can repeat this next year. If you feel like you've not really been energetically feeling it, I have a workshop. The annual vision and planning workshop is a really great place to kickstart this. The workshop actually is bundled with the almanac. So for $55, you get the almanac and the workshop. And you can really dive into having the energetic belief in where you're going and unpacking some of the things that are blocking you and really getting in that energetic frequency of really where you want to be going this year. You can also dive into Energy Code, which does this at a much deeper level. And it's really powerful to unblock what's stopping you. Finally, as I mentioned, we are talking about all of these things inside Phoenix Rising Mastermind on a daily, on a weekly basis. So dialing up your thought leadership and unpacking what's holding you back with personal coaching. So one-on-one coaching, as well as the beautiful sisterhood, is always on the agenda inside the Mastermind, among so many other topics and so many other things that we do inside the Mastermind. So I hope that this episode has resonated with you. I would love if you could leave a review. I would love for you to share that review or just share the episode on social media. And sharing this, obviously I'm super appreciative of it, but it really helps me spread the message of zero wasted days with the wider world. Thank you, and I will see you next time. Before you hit stop and jump to the next episode, let me just ask one final thing of you. Now, I know that every single podcast host asks this, but I can't tell you how important it is to me to know that you've been here listening to this episode. If you would be able to share this on your socials, I would be forever grateful. Even better, if you could actually jump on and give this a review. So if you're on your phone, scroll down to the bottom, give us a review, and this helps tell Apple and Spotify that you actually love this podcast and helps share it with the world. I really appreciate you being here every single week, and I appreciate you taking the time to share, rate, and review Zero Wasted Days.